Hello Evcom, and welcome to Celebro Studios here in London, and to my skill session. I want to thank Evcom for giving me the opportunity to do this and speak to you all. Today's session is going to be about how we might be able to utilize new broadcasting technologies to help us during this pandemic, help us get through, help us to put our events on remotely. I'm going to talk about and share some of the experiences that we've had over the past 3 months and hopefully share some useful advice and some learned lessons from those experiences before I move on to talk about how we might address events in the audiovisual space over the next few months. I'm Humza Chaudhry. I'm going to lead the session today, and I'm the commercial director here at Celebro. Celebro is a company that runs and operates TV studios staffed with a technical crew here in London, in Washington, DC, and in LA. I thought I'd start off by giving you a little bit of a flavor of what we have here. This is our Studio C here in Oxford Circus. We have on this side of the studio that you should be able to see a new set that often gets hired out by our clients. As you can see there, we've got a screen in the set that you can plug in whatever you need to. You've got your news desk, you've got graphics. The studios come fully equipped with robotic cameras, more on robots later, or with LED lighting, keeping the studios cool. Fully air conditioning, and a lot of the elements in here you can play around with. So you've got a lot of flexibility with whatever event you might want to host in a TV studio setting. Now I'm going to turn the camera around, and hopefully you can see that on this side of the studio you've got another set, a soft set, really popular with some chat show formats that we've done in the past, and for some of our corporate clients looking to do product launches, maybe standing there instead of sitting with the screen in the background. And then you've got the use of the nice backdrop there, the white brick that's lit by the uplighters that can change to whatever color. And in usual times, these studios, you can host sort of 4 or 5 people on camera. But with socially distancing, of course, that's brought down a little bit. And finally, I was just going to walk you through the gallery, which is just adjacent. It's somewhere that where all the magic happens, and where we have our crew ready and waiting to run your production. And we have a director's seat, a sound desk, somewhere to run lights and run cameras. So I'm just going to take a little seat while I speak to you a little bit about how we've adapted to these new circumstances we found ourselves in over the past few months. Before looking to the future, I just want to give you a flavor of some of the new productions that we have been able to complete in lockdown. We've had to get really creative with the way that we've put these events on and what technologies we've used. For example, we did a show for Sky One called Redknapp's Home Fixtures, where we operated a 3-camera studio in Jamie Redknapp's house. We only had one operator that was able to go into his house, and while production was managed remotely here, and viewed remotely by Sky, we had that operator set that all up with the robotic cameras that I was talking about earlier, and we were managed to put that production on from here using a mixture of NDI technology, video over IP, etc. A lot of these production solutions are using these consumer-based solutions that I'm sure many of you will be familiar with, your Zooms, your Skypes and stuff, and it's working really, really well. With Harry Redknapp, who was also involved in that show, interestingly, he was shielding. So this wasn't possible. So what we had to do there was FedEx over the equipment that was required and the instructions for the setup so that we could log in and take care of that remotely for him. We also did a show for Channel 4 with Mo Gilligan, the comedian. Again, we went in, we installed cameras, we installed screens, and that was a show that relied heavily on video contributions coming in from celebrity guests, as well as the general public. And we also had to manage social media text feeds there. And that was done live, and all those elements were in vision on camera. And here in the studio, back in April, we ran an event for the aviation industry. It was a roundtable discussion for a satellite company called Inmarsat. They had contributions from global locations on a really important event that was in the aviation calendar for a very long time, and even more important to run at that time, given the challenges, the specific challenges that the aviation industry are facing right now. So I hope that gives you a flavour of the sorts of events that and productions that we're able to achieve, or were able to achieve in the initial stages of lockdown. Now, you might think that with hastily put together productions like that, we would have to compromise on vision quality and on sound and on lighting. But actually, remote production has been around for a very long time, and the accompanying equipment is all of a very high broadcast quality. And with the right preparation, you can really bring a TV feel to these events. The actual challenges that we faced and we've had to learn from were power, having the available power needs on site. They were around internet, making sure that the internet was stable enough in these homes or sites that aren't really built for that. And air conditioning, which, apart from being a saving grace for a lot of our staff and talent during this summer, is really important for cooling down the equipment that's being used. Another big challenge is latency. That's obviously crucially important. And by latency, I mean the delay between the different feeds of the cameras and the cameras that go out to broadcast. And while these technologies can bring down latency down as far as a 1 second, it's still not as punchy as a real broadcast. So this is again down to your internet, but also down to the way that you structure the content and the editorial side of what you're doing to complement with these technologies. More on that later. So what were the big takeaways from what we learned here? I would say, number one, don't be afraid of using technologies that you are unfamiliar with or have not used before COVID. Consumer tools, Skype, Zoom, have really proven to be robust and have come into their own. What previously may have only been used for small webinars and internal meetings are now really being at the forefront of audiovisual events. Number two, I would say preparation. Preparation is really key. For one person to set up that studio in Jamie Redknapp's house was achievable, but it was a lot of hard work. And we needed to factor in a lot more time in the planning of these events and the setup of the events than we have normally when we go out onto location. So this is also particularly true when you have contributors who will need a lot of guidance from you, from producers, to get things right. And I'd encourage you all to make allowances for those contributors that won't be familiar with the technologies. They will need that guidance, and they will need a lot of support because they won't have it nearby. Miking people up, getting them online, getting them onto a Skype, all of that is key. And I'd say the third thing that we learned that works really well, but as some clients were hesitant to do, was multi-platforming. I really encourage you not to be afraid when you're thinking about putting events on over the next year, to use multiple events to showcase your event. I think it's a misconception to think that aggregating platforms will split your audiences. Actually, I think it's another advantage to have multiple platforms, and consumers of your content will be able to log into their preferred platform, whether it be social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, Vimeo, or a more tailored solution, maybe even a subscriber only solution with a paywall. If you're looking to raise revenue and make yours a closed door event. Finally, as we move into the next stages of lockdown, where companies are getting back to work, but large gatherings of people will still not be possible for a long time, I want to end by talking about how we can build from here over the next phase and what opportunities I think there are for us in the events industry. I think we're going to see a lot more and should see a lot more hybrid events as the lockdown eases, and where the technologies have worked really well for us in the past 3 months, that they still play a crucial role in putting together events, while simultaneously we try and get more and more people together physically, because of course there's nothing that trumps that. For example, a host in a studio like ours with one other person, but contributions rather for Skype and Zooms and other people that you want to bring in virtually. Obviously socially distancing in a studio, but trying to allow for the maximum people. And obviously, as we get more and more towards closed door events and having a bigger crew on site, but no audiences. I think that audiovisual offerings and TV channels are often a huge element to large events and to trade shows. But before, they were often seen as a complementary offering or a fail-safe. They now need to become, at least for the next year, front and center, as we won't be able to gather as we have done before. We'll definitely lose some of that social value and some of that networking value of physical events, but there will be ways to compensate for that. And ways that we need to think about. So, for example, in terms of networking, sharing contact lists with people who have subscribed and logged on to your event, or creating an online hub or community so that they can discuss the event during and after, and before even. Being virtual can be really advantageous and bring a lot of opportunities. For example, to collaborate with others and form partnerships with companies outside of your usual list, and really build your network that way when we aren't at the moment physically networking. But I would advise that it still needs to be a curated process. What do I mean by that? I mean that you will need to think about structuring your content and what you're delivering in your event in a way that really maximizes the new technologies that you're having to use. For example, having pre-submitted questions for Q&As or a set of pre-recorded packages to run and integrate into your event that will really ease the pressure and the stress of working in new digital formats and make the flow a lot better. Also, let's think about the legacy value of the events that we're putting on. For a live event that you can stream, you might make savings from doing that event online instead of in a large venue. But you could use those savings, those cost savings, on additional content that you could package up and promote after the event. An interesting way of doing this that we've experienced with clients here has been running a global marathon where you run live events at the same time, say for example 9 a.m., in different time zones, tailored to audiences in those locations. But making that content downloadable later, drawing in more people that you would normally if you were to run one live event that would be in the middle of the night in Sao Paulo, for example. So I hope you found those tips useful. I know that it will be a tough time for many of us and has been, both personally and professionally. But I really think there are some opportunities here for all of us to experiment and do things differently with the technologies that are likely going to form a crucial part and a permanent part for the future of our industry and the way that we put on events. Thank you for your time. I hope that was useful. If you want to find out more, please do not hesitate to reach out to me via the EvCom network and or directly via the Celebro Studios website. And I wish you a great day. Thanks. Bye, guys.